Um, Matt, we better get in soon.
Yeah,
'Cause they mostly come at night.
mostly.
Mostly.
It's time for the Daily Planet podcast show. So sit back, relax, and give us a go. Scott and Matt and maybe a guest have undertaken an epic pod quest. We're gonna ramble on about movies and books and television and directors and film festivals and this really long list of stuff that I know nothing about, but they gave it to me and they really wanted me to read through it. And that's all I can really say about it, but it's gonna be great. Okay, start the show.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Planet podcast. I am your host, Scott Daly, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Matt Freeman. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Scott, and I am very excited to be talking about one of the classic movies of my childhood, Alien and Aliens.
Matt, it's Alien Day.
I heard that, but I don't know what that means. What is that exactly?
Well, it's April 26th, and the planet that they found the ship on was LV-426. So
I still don't get it, but okay, fine.
426, Matt. April 26th. It's not that hard.
LV, okay.
Yeah, just ignore the LV. It doesn't have to make sense. We are joined not as always, but as frequently by your brother, Daniel Freeman. Daniel, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me once again.
I hear you like these Alien movies.
I really do. They are also a fixture of my childhood. They're some of my favorite movies.
How do you feel about this pathetic marketing ploy to get people to care about Alien again, which clearly worked?
Are you referring to Prometheus and its sequels?
No, I'm not. I will never be referring to Prometheus and its sequels.
Then I actually don't know what you're talking about, unless you mean Alien Day.
I mean Alien Day.
Oh. Well, I hadn't heard about it, so I guess it's not working very well.
Oh, well.
No.
They made new versions of the sneakers that Ripley wore in the second movie.
Oh.
But then only released them in men's sizes, which is ironic.
That is ironic.
That's really unfortunate.
Yeah. So today I believe we're going to be trying our best to focus on Alien and Aliens and maybe not completely pretend the other movies didn't happen, but there's almost no talking about the other movies derails conversations about the Alien franchise in the same way that talking about the prequels derails conversation about Star Wars. So just sort of no point when you're trying to actually discuss these two movies, I think.
Yeah, we're gonna try our best. But also I'm gonna ask the impossible question at the end of this thing, which is which one of the first two movies is better? I feel like doing this is dangerous because if you're trying to defend one movie over the other, it means you have to kind of talk down the other, and I don't really want to do that. I think both movies are really great in very different reasons. So I'll try not to, when I'm defending one movie, talk down another. But before we get into all this Alien nonsense, let's talk about some film news, because we've got some exciting news, Matt. Really exciting news.
Yeah, is it about superhero movies?
It's not. I promise there is no superhero movie stuff.
That's weird. Okay.
All right. The first thing I wanted to start with is a new streaming service that's coming out called Filmstruck. This is a pairing of Turner Classic Movies and the Criterion Collection that will be showing there's indie, classic, and art house movies. So it's like Netflix, but for movies that are good. So they haven't released how much this is going to cost or anything yet. But they've already announced some of the films that are going to be on it on release, like movies like Seven Samurai, A Hard Day's Night, A Room with a View, Blood Simple, My Life as a Dog, Mad Max, and The Player. So these are all pretty good movies.
Yeah.
So, would you get this, either of you?
Daniel.
Maybe? See, I'm sort of stuck in the place where I don't understand why anyone is even trying to compete with Netflix, but at the same time I see that Netflix's movie collection is rapidly dwindling, so I just kind of sit back in confusion and terror as this occurs. So probably not, unless unless it becomes like an actual competitor to Netflix, and then maybe, but probably not.
Yeah, I think Netflix's film library, you're right, is shrinking, and they're eventually. I think Netflix is going to be something that just has their original programming on it.
Which I'm actually would not. It wouldn't be the end of the world because
No.
they do really cool stuff. So.
Not at all. Matt, what do you think about this?
I mean, it depends on how they execute it. The idea, as it is described by you, sounds compelling. Because I'm all the movies you named, essentially, I've seen 2 of them, I think, maybe 3, and these are like classics that everyone refers to as being great. And I don't know, just in order to sort of educate myself, I feel like I should watch them, and yet I'm never going to go out of my way, or it would take me years and years to go out of my way and get all these. But if they were all on the same streaming service, like a curated, good movie streaming service, that would be perfect. I'm probably like the perfect customer for this, actually.
Yeah, I think my fear is everyone's been looking for an excuse to cut kind of the cable cord for a while, or at least I have. I watch so much TV and stuff that kind of scares me because I'll lose out on a lot of my television shows I watch and the sports stuff I watch. But stuff like this kind of leans me towards more doing it. Like if I could just have Netflix and then this, then I have my original shows that I like covered, and then I have movies covered, and kind of good, you know. So depending on how much it costs, this is something I'd definitely be interested in.
Yeah, right. I guess it all comes down to that. I agree.
See, and there's my other fear is that there's so many of these different streaming services now that when does it just get ridiculous? Like there's this other service called Mubi, which is like an independent movie streaming service. It's probably less classics and more just indie and foreign films you haven't heard of ever. I really keep thinking about wanting to do that one. And if Mubi wants to sponsor us, because I know they sponsor podcasts, just let me know. DailyPlanetFilms@gmail. There you go. Anyway, that seems really cool, but like you have that and you have Netflix and some people have Hulu too, and all this stuff just starts Amazon as well. Like it starts, you're not really replacing cable. You're just writing 5 different checks instead of 1,
which is annoying.
Yeah. And I just used a check reference, which is not even an accurate statement anymore.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I this has me excited, but we've talked before about CBS is doing their own app, and that's where exclusive place to see the new Star Trek series, and every channel is going to have their own app, and like it's going to get ridiculous.
I really don't like how the world is becoming just an app universe. Is this me being an old person? Am I yelling about the young kids and their apps?
You're too young to be an old person.
But
yeah.
I don't like apps, and I hate them.
I feel like we're in a phase right now that's on its way to something better. I mean, think about like what iTunes did, where there's very little music. There's very little like mainstream music you can't get on iTunes. Obviously there's other sources for music that is not mainstream. But basically some like mega corporation will have to come in and make some really, aggressive business deal that sort of forces everyone's hand to be part of the same platform, and then it will be that way forever after. This is my prophecy.
Yeah.
I hope it's Google.
Me too.
But also part of me, and it would have to depend on a cost model, part of me wishes I could just say, I want to watch these 12 shows, and I want to just pay for those 12 shows. And you can kind of do that, like iTunes, you can buy a season of a show or whatever, but there's no real central service for that. And that's something I would be for.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, you wouldn't be paying monthly bill. You'd say, okay, Game of Thrones came back. I'm going to buy Game of Thrones Season 6 pass for, I don't know what's fair. I'm not in pricing, but for a certain amount of money. And then another show comes back, you buy that. I would be for that.
Yeah.
Because I have 600 cable channels and I watch 5 of them.
Right.
So I don't need all that. I don't need to be paying for all that. But also I really like HBO, and then I have some I watch a Star show, and then there's a couple Showtime shows I like, or at least want to be able to have the option to watch. So it just gets ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Matt, this is our entrepreneur opportunity. We can come up with a way
Yeah.
of bringing this all together.
This is not a bad idea.
You did read that book, so
Yes,
basically
I
an
know.
expert.
Right. I mean, I know all of the main things you have to do to make the next Google. I think it's a bulleted list of 4 things. So
Well, that sounds really easy.
yeah, we'll just have to do those 4 things. All right.
All right.
I'll get on it.
So moving on. This is very exciting news that I'm sure both of you are going to be really, really excited about. They're remaking the Jumanji movie.
Oh, I heard about this.
And starring The Rock.
Yeah, I mean, when you tell me that, I'm legitimately excited.
So is he playing the Robin Williams character though?
I don't know.
Probably.
See,
I
the
hope
thing
so.
the thing about Jumanji is that, I mean, is it really a remake? Are they going to tell the same story, or is this another like story centered around the Jumanji board game?
I hope it's that, because if they really just tried to remake it,
Yeah, with the same plot where he's like a kid and then he gets old in the forest and he comes like, it's not that good of a story actually. It's fun for reasons that have nothing to do with the story.
and it leaned on Robin Williams a lot.
Yeah,
As much as I like The Rock,
yeah,
that's completely different.
that's true.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
still gonna see it.
yeah, I'll see it. I'll see it. I don't know when this movie's coming out. I just know that they just. I mean, I think they're just casting now, but I'm not sure who's directing it. I don't know. Maybe they should get the Goosebumps guy, because apparently that was a good movie.
Yeah, that sounds like a similar property. So good point.
All right, and my last piece of news is to tie into what we're talking about right now. Neil Blomkamp is still making his Alien sequel, even though Ridley Scott said, no, you have to wait until after my Prometheus sequel comes out, which is a terrible idea. He's still going to make a sequel just specifically to Aliens.
Interesting.
And he posted a picture on Instagram today of an adult Newt looking like tough and badass or something. So not only is he just sequeling Aliens, but he is definitely ignoring the rest of the canon of the story.
Yeah, that's a pretty major retcon, but
Yeah, well, I mean, no one was happy with what happens in Alien 3
yeah.
to Newt, so I don't mind them doing
Actually,
that.
I think a lot of people were happy, because a lot of people apparently hated Newt.
Well,
So
then.
I think we're about to get into this, but the thing I like the most about the Alien franchise is every movie is really unique and distinct. They're kind of completely different kinds of movies. Even the silly Alien Resurrection is really different from anything else. So just making a sequel based off of one of the movies in a way that's probably going to be callbacks and references and a similar type of tone film is not something I'm interested in at all.
Yeah.
So now we have a terrible Prometheus/Alien prequel movie coming out, and then a sequel to one that ignores other sequels. So this is the beloved franchise that we're celebrating today and about to talk about how great these movies are. And
yeah, I mean, the franchise has been dead for so long, though. I mean, because Daniel and I have been fans of the franchise, even the crappy movies, but we're sort of just doing it out of like fan loyalty. Like the one where the aliens and predators infest the small American town.
That was so
and
bad.
and I mean,
That
like
movie's
that,
pretty great.
No,
it's pretty funny. I mean, it's pretty fun as a piece of schlock, like to watch the predator throw the thing and cut the cheerleader in half or whatever.
I think it's sort of self-aware too. Like it's
yes,
yeah.
It's self-aware schlock, which is all I really ask of schlock.
We saw that movie on Christmas Day, and my mother will never let my dad live it down.
I mean, see, the thing, like, I think Daniel's right on point, which is that movie is self-aware schlock. The problem with these Prometheus sequels is that they're extremely self-serious garbage.
Agreed.
I will defend Prometheus to the best,
we're not
but
talking
I'm
about,
sure we don't want to do
we're
that.
not.
We're not going to get derailed. This is our entire conversation about the rest of the franchise right now, is that nobody else can do it right. these two movies were very special.
That is true.
Yes.
All right, so let's do it. Let's jump into the main event. Let's talk about Alien versus, and I'm going to put versus in because that's apparently really popular right now. Aliens. And we'll talk about Alien first because it came out first. So I watched this movie again yesterday, and it is amazing. I love this movie so much. I don't know what your guys' history with the franchise is. I saw Aliens first.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the first rated R movies I saw, actually, because my mom went out of town. My dad said, we're going to watch this. So sorry for selling you out, Dad. But I can't remember how old I was. The movie came out in 86, and we rented on home video, so I had to be like 5, because I was still in New Jersey. And I loved it even then. Aliens is my dad's favorite movie, but I came back to Alien later, and I think it's great. So what do you guys think of Alien?
Similar story for us in terms of how we found the movies, I think. Right, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw Aliens, the second one, first as well.
I don't remember how old I was, and Daniel would have been younger, obviously. And then I think, man, yeah, I don't remember how I found these movies, actually. But, yeah. Don't know.
I mean, I think I saw Alien 1 later because it's basically a horror movie, whereas I don't really think of Aliens as a horror movie, and therefore it would have actually terrified me as a child if I'd seen it earlier.
Yeah. It's interesting to talk about how, I mean, the second one is scary, but you can handle it as a kid. It's funny that we're both that like all of us are just casually talking about having seen it as like a small child, but yeah, like it was something that you could handle, and I was only occasionally worried that there was a face hugger in my bedroom.
Yeah.
I remember we had a friend come over one time, and we had this Queen Alien toy, and apparently the Queen Alien toy, somebody had just by coincidence left it set up so that it was standing like right in the doorway to his room with its head turned, looking into the room, looking at him, and he had to get up in the middle of the night and leave our house because he was too terrified.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So this was like, I must have been like 7 or younger when I first saw Aliens. So it's basically, I don't remember not having seen the movie Aliens. How about that?
Yeah, that's fair.
I think you were younger.
Yeah, I also think I was younger.
So there's things, I think, approaching Alien from the perspective of already knowing what the franchise is. I think there's something we lost in that. Just experiencing all the stuff for the first time that we already knew about because we saw the other movies. But I think the amazing thing about this movie is, even on this rewatch, and I've seen this movie so many times, Alien is still really creepy and scary and surprising and wonderful. I paid attention to the directing more in this and the cinematography more this time around. And I know I make fun of Ridley Scott a lot because he's a robot. But I think his style of directing works for this movie so much because you don't see the alien for like an hour. But the tone of the film is set up right away. Even the cool opening credits, just the way it's done, like the alien letter slowly builds to itself, is creepy. And then like the opening scene is a huge picture of the ship, and then it's this slow pan through the ship that is empty and looks dead, and there's like symbols of life, like there's posters and helmets, and like people are like, it looks like people live in there, but it's just empty, and that's like so creepy, like instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then like when the computer turns on, it's this extremely jarring and like inhuman chittering sound, and you're almost, I think the first time you see it, you're almost sort of like, what the hell is this? Like it's unnerving by itself, and all it is like the computer waking up.
Yeah, because it's like, it seems like the ship's running itself. It even more enforces the ghost town nature of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like that cool part when they have like, they show the computer screen and then they show it reflected in that helmet, and you're like, is there someone in that helmet? Like, is that just an empty helmet sitting there? Like, it's just very weird, and that sets a tone that carries all the way through the film.
I think something else that's actually pretty powerful for these movies is that they're some of the last sci-fi movies to be done with like really awesome practical effects, because pretty soon after that everything started looking like really shiny bad CG for probably 2 decades, and then now, like just now, we're going back to practical effects because they look way better. So it has this very surreal feeling throughout the whole movie, because it's like, yeah, this is actually a real model of the spaceship, so it actually looks like a real spaceship.
Yeah, and this movie came out like right after Star Wars, I think. So this was a movie kind of continuing on the space as dirty motif that Star Wars kind of set up. This isn't your clean 2001 space. This is like things are rusty and they don't work and they break and that adds something to it.
It almost created, and I don't want to skip ahead to Aliens too much, but one thing you can say about both films equally is that they both sort of created and defined genres, or at least subgenres, and then nothing else since then has ever matched them in what they were doing. Like you just said, Alien is this like rusty, unpleasant future, and it's also like space horror, and it's also like Lovecraftian horror, which is like the unknowable unknowns and like bizarre cosmic horrors that are just incomprehensible, and you never actually find out where they're from or what they are. And we've seen other movies try to do that, try to do either the space horror or the cosmic horror, whether it's set on Earth or not. We've tried, and now we've seen so many movies try to do the like rusty, dilapidated future thing, and I think none of them really pull it off the way Alien does, and Alien was the first one, and it's just amazing to me.
Yeah, and like in Geiger, art has basically not been supplanted since as like the like example of terrifying alien art. I wanted to, before I forget and before we move past that point, I wanted to talk about the alien design. And
the giant penis head.
Yeah. Well, and just what a great monster design it is, basically, because it's just, I really feel like the whole reason there is an Alien franchise that has sprawled the way it has is because of this extremely imagination capturing monster design. Like, can you imagine like a franchise spawning from like a franchise sort of organically spawning from Cloverfield based on the design of the Cloverfield monster?
No.
Okay, let me ask a follow-up question. Do you think you could sketch the Cloverfield monster? Of course not. Everyone can sketch the alien. Even though you see it for like 12 seconds on the screen, you can sketch the alien because it's such a, it's elemental. It's a human form with all kinds of creepy crap on it and a giant phallic head. I mean, it's like tuned into your amygdala. So I just think it's a great monster design. I think that that's part of why this movie's great. It's not everything, obviously.
Yeah, and I think it's Alien especially, and Aliens kind of does this, but I mean, Alien is a movie about sexuality and rape, basically. I mean, that's what these monsters do is they rape you, impregnate you, and you are damaged in the birth of something new. And like the imagery is all there. Like it, and I was pointing it out to my girlfriend as we watched this. I was like, "Look, there's a penis. There's another penis. There's a vagina." Like it's right. Everywhere. Like everything in this movie has some sort of sexual imagery. Like even, and we're jumping ahead a little bit, but the way Ash chooses to try to kill Ripley. Rolling up a magazine and trying to shove it in her mouth. A porn magazine. It's like this movie is. It's not really subtextual at all. Like it's very obvious in its metaphor, but it just works so well. And I was reading quotes by the writer, I think, saying he wanted to target men specifically to give them the fear of rape that they don't really ever experience, and he wanted to scare them through this. And I think it's something that that aspect of it, I think, kind of goes subconscious to a lot of the people that watch this, but it worked because it scared the hell out of people.
Yeah, it's playing with a kind of fear that, I mean, that's it's funny because we've, like you said, we sort of grew up with these movies in a sense, the idea of something bursting out of your chest has sort of unfortunately always been with me. But imagine if you were like our age now and you saw, and this was like the first time you'd ever been exposed to the idea of like suddenly somebody hunches over and then a creature bursts out of their chest and runs away and blood gets everywhere. It's like that would be really horrifying.
Absolutely.
It's still horrifying. I'm just used to it now.
And I think the coolest part about that scene is that no one told the other cast members exactly what was going to happen.
That's awesome.
They knew something was going to happen. The Kane character was going to die, and that the alien was going to come out.
Yeah.
But no one told them exact. So like a lot of the looks of fear and everyone freaking out is genuine because none of the actors know what's going on.
Right, and I believe like the mechanism sort of was overpressured or something.
Yeah.
So like way more, like the blood spray was way more explosive than they expected. So everyone's like scream of shock was quite genuine.
And that's something that, to touch on what Daniel was talking about of the practical effects, this movie is very liquidy. And that goes into the whole sexual metaphor behind it. But the blood, the the robot's milky blood, the amount of liquid that drips from these aliens, like it's very like there's it's very, and I think doing that in CG effects would completely ruin that. Like you can drip all this mucus gross stuff off these aliens and it looks real and feels real. And I was watching Alien 3 right before we started, and that's the first one that starts really using CG aliens, and it just ruins it.
Right.
Yeah.
Trivia, did you know that the aliens, the alien model or the alien suit or whatever, the dome is transparent? It's a transparent dome that shows a human skull under it, but because the movie is so dark, it just looks like a glossy black dome.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, I think that's interesting because it gives you kind of a different view on what this creature sort of is, and also it explains how it can see. but I always actually thought it was kind of cool that it didn't have eyes. I thought that was a big, it helped make it otherworldly and creepy because you can't tell where it's looking. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to talk about we've kind of been diving into different things. I want to talk like high level why I think this movie works so well. I mean, why it's so scary. We've talked about that a little bit, but the fact that this thing is completely unkillable, and then the fact that the movie kind of throws curveballs at us with the characters, and we haven't really touched on the characters that much, which they're great. Like all of them, I love the first scene we see with the characters is them sitting around eating. So we kind of. And the movie smartly doles out the entire dynamic of all these characters in that one scene. You got your two kind of underling mechanical people complaining about their percentage of the profit. You've got your smarter science guy, your captain. Like all this stuff is doled out for you very quickly. But then the movie leaves you unsure because no one expected Ripley to end up being the main character of this movie. Everything was seeming to point towards the captain, Dallas, being that main character.
Yeah.
And then things completely, and it kind of uses the fact, I know that there's the standard anecdote that the role was written to be for a man or a woman, but the fact that they cast a woman also kind of throws you for a loop because you would never, in any kind of traditional horror movie of the time, you would not expect her to be the most competent and the most level-headed out of all of them.
Yeah.
And it plays you with that, and I think that's really clever.
Yeah, I mean it's a subversive horror movie. It completely breaks all of the expected scripts, and even since then, very few horror movies have done something that kind of revolutionary. Or maybe Alien did it so well that they don't even want to try. But it was masterful.
And it really is a horror movie, but you also it's transcendent. It transcends the genre because, especially obviously the first time you're watching it, you think that Ripley could die too, because the alien is just killing everybody, and it's so unstoppable. When you're watching a Freddy Krueger movie or something, you sort of already know the formula, but this movie is so unique that you didn't feel there was some guarantee of like, oh well, somebody's going to escape, and it's probably going to be the hot young woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things I liked, and I don't know how long it's been since the two of you seen it. I just watched it, so the movie uses a lot of close-ups, which makes sense because they're trying to instill like isolation and claustrophobia, and that they're trapped in this ship. And it's actually, even though it's a big ship with really long corridors, like it makes it seem small and isolating. But at the beginning of the movie, it would do these close up on faces and then switch to like a long shot outside the ship of showing like everything from a distance. And as the movie goes on and the tension ramps up, it kind of halts that. And I think that really is like turning the knob on the tension. Is now we're not allowed to see anything except right in the face of our characters. And there's some really great shots in there of like, I don't know if you remember like when Ripley's climbing up the ladder and she like puts her fingers, her sweat drenched fingers on the top of the platform, and then slowly raises her eyes up. I don't know if you guys remember that scene. That one always stuck in my mind because it's just so iconic to me.
Yeah. There's
I
so
feel
much.
like,
Go ahead, Daniel.
I was just gonna say, I feel like the entire ending sequence is like this, where Ripley's trying to exit the ship, and it's not really like wide shots showing you where she's going. It's basically camera on her as she's moving, and it seems just to get more claustrophobic the entire time it goes on, up until the point where she gets into the shuttle, and then it's like not even over yet. And
right.
It's
Yeah, that's exactly true, because like she'll have, I may get the detail wrong in my head, but like she'll have her back up against a wall, and she'll be sort of turning her head around, trying to just get like, the corner of her eyeball around the corner without getting any more of her body in line of sight of whatever's around the corner. And you can't see what's around the corner either. So you have this, you're basically feeling exactly what the character is supposed to be feeling, of just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and like your heart, and it does, oh my god, and then like the I believe the soundtrack at that point is just like a hammering heartbeat. Is that this movie, or is that the next one? Or is that both, actually?
I think that they use that in both, but I think that's more specific to here.
Yeah. And that's I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's like the
else.
sound. It's like the motion sensor / heartbeat sound that's just like ramping up during the end, like the final 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And we can talk about the motion sensor sound too, because that's something that they use in both, and it's an incredibly great like device for film, because like Scott was just talking about it, that's probably, I don't know if it's the climax of the claustrophobia, but the part when Dallas goes down into the air ducts.
Oh, that's so perfect.
And you've got and they're like manually closing the seals, and so they're literally closing off his environment and cordoning it off and making it smaller and smaller, and it just the darkness is used so effectively as like it could be right there. Yeah. And of course it is actually right there, and that's the best part.
Yeah, and I love that scene too, because I love the production design in this movie is really great, and stuff like touches like having the way the ducts close, where it's almost like a camera lens that slowly gets smaller. And right before the duct closes behind him, where he truly goes in to his eventual death, like the camera stays on the circle, and like you kind of see him, like it close slowly on him before it then cuts to the next scene, and that's like the best way to telegraph this guy's fucked. But the best part of that, and this is the first time I've noticed it, is there's a scene right before he goes into the vents that he goes into the mother communication room, which I think is just a great looking room too. Like with like the fact that they have to like enter a code and like slide things in different slots to get in and all this crazy stuff. But he's like basically like pleading with Mother, who was named that very intentionally, let me know my chances. Is there anything else I can do? Like he knows he's kind of dead, and he's just pleading with another way out, and that's sad and touching, and I think ties into the theme as well.
Yeah.
I never noticed that scene before, and I don't know why.
Yeah, it's funny. I think definitely when I was younger, I thought the mother scenes were confusing and corny, and I'm like, this is not what computers look like. So this is stupid. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to say that's the point, but it's very nearly the point. That this room is a weird like isolated chamber, and it's almost like a womb, obviously.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I really like I like the show don't tell of kind of the what's going on in the background throughout the Aliens franchise, really. Like how it's this kind of soulless corporation that's going about all of these things, and you never, I mean, in the worst movies of the franchise they make it more explicit, but it's very much in the background of like Alien and Aliens. That
Yeah, which is something that, and maybe you guys know. Did they? So was this mission always going to stop at that planet? Because they specifically mentioned that they replaced their science officer with Ash, the robot, 2 days before they shipped out on this mission. So that makes it seem like this wasn't just, oh, we stumbled upon a beacon. This was always a place that they were going to stop to try to collect this
it
species.
probably depends on like which continuity you're following, because I don't know, Matt. Did you actually know?
no, honestly, I didn't even remember the detail that Ash was put on the ship 2 days before, but that's very suggestive of
yeah,
because he's obvious. I mean, he's an android who he seems to know. Like if you just study his character, he has that like arrogance, that what's the word, like disdain for all of them,
Yeah.
and he really does seem to see them as like cattle, even from the very beginning, before he knows he's basically going to have to kill them all, like as part of his job. So it's almost like he's already preparing himself, or he already sees him this way, so he's the perfect guy for the job of using them as incubators.
Yeah, it would be a great way to answer this question. Some sort of like Alien prequel.
Yeah, I'm not satisfied until I understand everything.
Speaking about the Ash character, though, I think his performance is really great, and I think it's great because there's scenes when like he has to explain his actions, and he like has to feign humanity, like when he breaks quarantine and lets Kane in with the facehugger on his face. He has to he wants the specimen on board because he wants to study it and take it back because he's on company orders. But no one knows he's a robot, so he has to feign to Ripley that he did it for like human reasons. Like, what would you have me to do? He was gonna die. And I just thought like he has to do this performance where he's acting as a robot, acting like a human.
Yeah.
And he has to, and it's not a normal like I like Bishop's character in the next one a lot, but he doesn't really ever have to do that.
Yeah. Right. Well, Bishop is a good guy.
Yeah.
And you I mean, the only play they get with Bishop is making you think he might not be a good guy. But
yeah.
But Ash, yes, Bilbo is an amazing actor.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what do you guys remember your favorite scene from this movie? Because I think my absolute favorite scene is at the very end when she's sitting in the chair and she has to turn to open the airlock. So like she's looking at the alien and like spraying it with the steam or whatever, and then she has to turn around because the airlock control pad is behind her.
Yeah.
So she has to put her back to the thing, and then so she does it and gets it ready, and then like slowly does that. And I think that's an iconic image too of her like slowly looking out of the corner of her eye, and the camera stays right on her so you can't see where the alien is, and then it flash cuts to just a close up on the alien mouth, and then her screaming and hitting the button. And I just like that. Even when I knew what was gonna happen, I still got scared this time because it's like we turn our back on it when she turns her back on it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely between that whole ending sequence and when they first find like the strange eggs on the planet as just as a cool scene, because I don't know, I just think it has coolness factor.
Yeah, and that goes back to production design because that whole ship looked awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
and I always wanted to know what the giant guys sitting in the chair looked like, so I'm glad we got a whole movie.
Yeah,
they're
human. They're proto-humans. That's boring. I mean, it's. I think I would have called the ending sequence and the Lovecraftian crash ship the best parts, but actually, the part that the part that I still can't like watch without squirming is the part in the ducts where Dallas is going into the ducts, because like even though I've seen it so many times, I can never quite remember the timing of things. So, and plus it's just so good at building up the tension that I always jump out of my skin every time it's actually right there.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
you've got the other female character whose name I can't even remember, screaming at him, "You're going the wrong way," and she's just panicking.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a really great scene. And
yeah.
there are like the lighting in this thing's so good that like in that scene when Dallas was going the wrong way, this is the first time I like saw the alien before he did, and like you
Hmm.
don't even realize you see it because the thing blends in with the background so well. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, it's right there. I can see it. It's right there.
yeah. It still somehow doesn't make it less scary when it
Yeah,
like
no, you're absolutely right.
moves. I'm going to add an honorable mention for the first time we see it in its full grown form, with just the whole sequence there where I mean I forget the guy's name again, but the guy, he's looking for the cat, which is just a great kind of device. Or no, he's not looking for the cat necessarily, but he finds the cat, and it's the big room with the chains hanging down, the water dripping,
Yeah,
and it's like hot and humid, and it comes down behind him, and you see like the shape of it behind him, but the camera focuses on him, and you really have no idea what it's going to look like yet. And then even when they show it, they don't really show it. They show parts of it in a confusing way, just enough to make you freaked out. And then it like stabs him in the head with its second mouth, and
it's penis mouth.
and he makes like this horrifying inhuman moan of pain, and that's it.
And then it cuts back to the cat's eyes
Yeah,
as
yeah.
it lifts him up. Yeah, that's so
Like-
great.
The cat's unfeeling sociopath eyes.
Right.
So let's talk about that cat because like obviously the whole conclusion of the film is her going back to get the stupid cat, and that's why she can't turn off the explosion, the automatic detonation thing in time, and then she's got to save the cat, and she finally rescues the cat. I was curious about like the decision to include this, and I read this article that was talking about how because the cat is saved and in the end she's not alone, she's with this cat, like it feels like at least kind of a victory. And I thought that was a good point. I mean, I think yeah, it's just a stupid cat, but she pulled something off. Something was successful where nothing else worked the entire movie.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because it's sort of about, like loss of control and this alien creature just ruining everyone's day, and it's her trying to re-exert control or some amount of humanity in this horrible situation. So it's like a humanizing moment. It's not like the alien was just completely made her turn into a monster.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think we've gotten so many movies lately, so many stories in general, where the whole point is like, look at what humanity can sink to.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, actually, this was nice because she risks her life to save a cat. I'm trying to, I can't remember the exact sequence of events at the end, but isn't there some kind of argument to be made that if she hadn't gone to save the cat, then she would have died? Or am I making something up?
It's possible. I'm not sure of the exact timeline on that. I know she runs and gets the cat, and then she leaves the cat to go see what's happening with her the last two crew members that die, and then she goes back to the cat. And then when she's going to get the cat, I think the alien is in her way or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There's that weird scene where the cat's sitting in its cage, and the alien, like, you see the alien's face, like, staring at it.
Yeah.
And then it cuts away, and you never see what happens, but the cat's still alive, so
Right.
I thought that was interesting.
It recognized it as its equal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it was just like, you're not scared of me, so this isn't fun.
Well, and that's
Who
like
knows?
we're about to transition to aliens, but I thought that was the coolest thing about the alien in this was that it was cold, unfeeling. We didn't understand it. We couldn't understand it. We barely saw it. It was unkillable. Like even when she blew it out the airlock, like it was still moving around. Like the thing wasn't
Right.
dead. And they specifically mentioned that its cells have the ability to basically protect it in ridiculous temperatures and environments. So that thing was probably still just floating around up there.
Right.
It's probably not dead. So
Yep.
that was great, and that was scary. And it's like I think there's a read in this movie that like this entire movie is about the id. I don't know if I agree with that or not, but that certainly goes into it, that it's this unkillable, unstoppable thing.
Yeah, you can't triumph over it. You can only like banish it from your presence.
Yeah. So moving into Aliens.
Oh, one
Sure,
interjection. Is there precedent for like a metamorphosizing alien like there is in the movie Alien, where it's like this creature that, I mean, this can't be like the first instance of this in film, but I can't actually, or like book, but I can't actually think of another example of this.
I don't know. I think not in this way. I think not in the overt stick an egg down your throat and then
because now it just feels like, oh, that was done like 20 years ago.
Right.
And it's old hat, but like
I think there's been like body snatcher horror for longer than that. There were a lot of kind of, I don't know what the word is, but like the really, really old black and white science fiction movies where there'd just be some weird thing. And it all sort of, I mean, I know it's a bit of a stretch, but it all sort of harkens back to like Jekyll and Hyde stuff and Frankenstein stuff, where it's not an alien, but the whole idea of body horror, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And the thing that's special about Alien that can never really be replicated is that, like, and again, the first time you see it is when this affects you, but like you're just continually confused by the life cycle, where it's like egg and then this weird face hugger thing you've never seen before, and then it bursts out of the chest into like a snake thing, and then suddenly it's a giant thing, and like it's easy to forget that, but the alien throughout the film is actually changing shape and form such that you never even know what you're going to see the next time you see it. But then in the subsequent movies, we're like, oh yeah, it's a xenomorph. It's a face hugger, and then it bursts out of your chest, and then it grows into a warrior thing, and then you shoot it with a pulse rifle.
I mean, there's even a deleted scene where, like, is that an Alien where I think it's the captain who's like slowly being turned into an egg by like some crazy alien process. I wish they'd left that in the movie because it's such a terrifying life cycle.
It is a weird, I mean, it's interesting. I don't know if you know about this, Scott, but I can mention it. Just like, it's a deleted scene where on Ripley's way out, she like ducks into this room, and Dallas is there, and he's all like cocooned, but it doesn't look anything like the aliens' cocoons. It's all like gooey, and it looks kind of like the eggs in texture, and he's being like melted. I think the first guy the alien got is in there too, actually, but he's dead, and he's even more melted actually, and they're being like melted into eggs.
Oh wow.
The idea is that the alien has like cocooned them, and so it's like, that's even weirder than like Daniel just said, that's even weirder than the other parts of the life cycle we're aware of, because it's like it's just using organic tissue to make more of it.
And I sort of like the idea that it could do this in the absence of like a queen or something from the next movie. That
right.
It is that resilient to being destroyed.
So I want to say before we talk about Aliens that I love this movie. I think it's great. I think it's a great action movie, although it's not really paced like an action movie. But I think this movie ruined the Alien. I think just the fact that we have a name, just like the name Xenomorph exists, ruins the Alien. Yeah. And then the fact that, I mean, it's a cool idea. Let's what happens when there's a bunch of these things. Like, it sounds really cool on paper, I think, but it takes away everything that's cool about the creature in the first one, and it builds a whole new coolness in something completely different, which is these are really scary, smart army of monster things that we have to shoot a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of the 100 Ninjas trope in action, where this is sort of inevitable if you ever have more than one alien in a single movie. But
yeah.
Even within Aliens, it shifts, and it has to, because I think it's really genuinely scary at the beginning when the pilot, I don't know, none of these people even have names, I don't think, but like the dropship guy gets back on the dropship, and there's like something gooey, and he's like sees the goo on his hand, and then the pilot turns around because she hears him come in, and you just see the alien face with the mouth thing, and she turns around to reach for a gun, and blood's everywhere. It's like that's really effective, and that preserves some of the like proper, I don't know, the horror nature of the monster, but then over the course of the movie it becomes less of a horror monster and more of a action monster.
See, I want to talk about the pacing. I want to mention that you said that happens at the beginning of the movie. That is an hour and 20 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
The first time we see the alien is an hour into the film, which is, I mean, is okay. But it's just like, people say, oh, this is a great action movie. It's not really paced like that. Like, there's a very long, intentional build-up to everything. And that's okay. I think we'll talk about the director's cut, but the director's cut destroys that pacing even worse and makes it like ridiculous. Yeah. I hate the director's cut. It's awful.
Yeah. And this movie, I think, introduced the classic Cameron 3 climax ending, where, I mean, I know we're going to go through the movie in order, but you think it's over, and then she has to go save Newt, and then you think it's over, and then she has to kill the queen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I think what this movie did really well, and when you ask my father, who this is his favorite movie of all time, what he will say it does really well is establishing these characters early on. Movies, especially action movies, have very limited amount of time to define your characters, and a lot of these guys are more archetypes than they are characters. But each of them like has their own independent arc, kind of like. The Hudson character is this whiny guy who has his own separate arc where he's like giving up, and then the dude goes down fighting. Like he as much as he complained and was terrified and game over and all that stuff, he dies on his feet fighting. You have the lieutenant who had never been in any combat drops and was not respected by anyone, dying like hand in hand with the most rough Marine in the group, Vasquez.
Yeah, and having earned his respect enough that she'll talk to him the way she does.
Right,
yeah.
Right. The one thing though is, and I don't know if you guys will agree with me on this, I think the Ripley character is completely different. She's not the same character from one film to the other at all.
Yeah.
She's become the kind of the stereotypical Cameron tough as nails woman, which is like she was really competent and strong in the first movie, but it was in a different kind of way. It was in more, I'm smart and resourceful, and I'm barely beating back the thing that's trying to kill me. In this, it's like she's like totally tough, competent, better than anyone else. Like all the Marines get slaughtered, and she's the only one that goes down by herself and manages to kill a shit ton of aliens on her own.
But there's good reason. There's good, subtextual reason for this too, I think, because you're right, Alien is like about like rape and violation and all these horrible things, and all she's able to do is survive it. Aliens is about motherhood and like mother-daughter or mother-child relationship and maternity in a word, basically, and she becomes essentially a maternal figure for the Marines, and she's being a hard ass about it, but she's basically becomes their hard ass mom, and in the meantime is literally being a surrogate mom to Newt, and her whole thing is trying to protect Newt because she sees Newt as her child, and she gets strength from this role of protecting people. In the beginning she's sort of lost all of her purpose and she's just listless, and what causes her to go on the mission in the first place is Burke telling her that there are families there, who are going to be butchered.
Yeah. So like while she's a different character in Aliens, like that's sort of like it's because she changed completely at the end of Alien. It's she is a different person after the.
And I don't want to say that I'm not okay with character growth. Like I'm fine that her character has changed, but it seems like just a huge change. Like I didn't really think she was that character at the end of Alien.
Yeah.
But they're doing something new with it, and so we've talked. Like I just told you I hate the director's cut. I do, but the cutting out of the fact that she was a mother and loses her own daughter due to the events, I think kind of undercuts everything they're trying to do with her and the Newt interaction. As much as I hate all the bonus scenes and how it screwed up the pacing, Sigourney Weaver was really pissed when they cut out those scenes.
Yeah.
Because to her, that's her character.
And I feel like they could have salvaged that by like having her have a portrait of her daughter in her room that she looks at sadly for 5 seconds. Like I don't know. I agree, because the director's cut, the way they got it across in the director's cut was just too long-winded. I think. Yeah, man. I mean, I love James Cameron for what James Cameron does, but I feel like Ridley Scott could have conveyed that in like, some very nuanced way.
Yeah. The way they do it in Aliens is literally Berg comes up to her and says, "Your daughter died at 67 or something."
Yeah.
A couple months ago. I mean, the worst part of the director's cut is the fact that they go to the planet before the characters get there.
Yeah, and they show the facehugger.
Yeah, that's so stupid, because even though it's an aliens movie and we know that there's going to be aliens, the whole point of that scene when the first time they're going through the corridors is this the first time we've seen this place and we don't know what's going on, and telegraphing that it was a facehugger like right away is just, it's awful. Like I completely understand why that scene was cut, and I don't understand why they wanted to put it back in.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast actually, but James Cameron wrote the script not planning to make it an alien movie, an alien franchise movie, since there was no such thing at the time, and he called it Mother, and it was just about aliens, I guess, like an alien infestation of some kind with a queen, some kind of organism that had a queen, I guess. I assume he had to rewrite it quite a bit to work in the alien life cycle, but obviously it's critical to this movie that there be a queen, which is in opposition to the human mother, and so it's two mothers against each other. So yeah, it is weird to me that they sort of cut out the thematic heart of the movie.
Yeah,
but I mean, you still get enough of it that it works. It's just is a little less clear.
Yeah, I mean, the film spends a long time with her and Newt's relationship, and Newt doesn't annoy me as much as she annoyed. Like, there's a lot of people out there like, "Oh, I fucking hate Newt. She's so annoying." And I was like, well, I mean, I don't think she's annoying. I actually think she's great. Like, I think when she puts the Marine helmet on and I affirmative, like, I think that's all really great. And her line, kid actors are mostly annoying, and it's really storming where I am, so sorry that there's background noise of storms. But kid actors tend to do bad line readings, but the mostly come at night line reading is really great.
Yeah.
It's really ominous, and it's like it's a complete like sealing the tone of the scene in one line, and it's delivered by a kid.
Yeah. It definitely never stood out to me when I was younger that it was particularly bad. Whereas, like, for example, in the movie Dune, Paul's younger sister did stand out to me as being a horrible actor. So maybe that is because we saw it as kids. Maybe if the first time we saw this movie, the age we are now, we would be like, "Oh, they got a fucking kid in it." I don't know. Maybe it's just because we were little kids, so I imagined being one of the kids running around the vents trying to survive. Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that's a good point. I obviously was not bothered by the acting. Yeah, you just kind of have to roll with it. The idea that this girl survived in the first place is already kind of, unbelievable, but it's the conceit of the film, so you have to go with it.
Yeah.
So you have to believe that this child is, simultaneously resilient enough to deal with having seen everyone murdered and also still a child. So I don't know. I have no problem with it. I really, maybe someone can point out to me the scenes they think are the worst ones, and just like think about the scene, the iconic one where she's in the sewer or whatever it is, the drain, and she's just holding her doll and like going, up to her shoulders in the water, and just has this look on her face, and it's fine. It's fine. It's not the best acting in the world, but you're totally with her in that scene.
That's such a good shot. I love it. Yeah. And the alien raises out of the water behind her.
Yeah.
And how big it looks. And that's such a well composited shot.
Yeah.
I can just like see the image of the tail, and it's just like long and terrifying, and I haven't even seen this movie in probably like 5 years.
Absolutely.
So
great.
So what's your favorite part of this one then? If you had to pick a favorite scene.
You go first, Matt.
Let's trying to see what jumps into my mind. I mean, man, like the I guess there's a couple that jump into my mind immediately. Toward the end, especially where she finds her way down into the queen's egg room, and um, it goes from being this hectic thing where she's running around and there's kind of explosion sounds, and then the soundtrack just like completely drops off and it's utterly silent except for like a faint heartbeat, and then she looks around, she realizes she's like in the egg chamber, and the camera pans over and you see the queen, and I think that's like it's a very effective
oh yeah,
movie moment.
And it's a slow pan.
Yeah.
And it's a slow pan and zoom out. So like, because how big the queen is,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also like the queen's breathing in that scene is really like everything drops out except for that heartbeat and then that
And the
weird
breathing.
And we talk a lot about dialogue on this podcast and how sometimes unnecessary dialogue is, especially talking about Christopher Nolan. The part in the scene when she like completely no words, she puts the fire to the eggs. The queen gets the message, tells her whatever alien guards to leave, and then the egg opens, and she like tilts her head and gives the queen this look like, you didn't just fucking do that, and then just starts blowing up all the eggs and killing everything, and it's just this perfect, completely non-dialogue, just blocked out within the scene, and it's just great. It's great.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, you completely buy the like hate between these two characters,
Yeah.
even though they don't speak. This queen never speaks.
Yeah.
And of course,
Also-
tying into your whole thing about the theme of motherhood is that one's holding their child and the other standing around their children.
Right.
So it's just composited really well too.
I also just like really liked the sound design of like the grenades when she's like launching them into the big like tube egg sack thing.
Yeah.
I can just hear that right now.
Yeah, you could
so great.
go on. You could just go on about the sound design in this movie, because you've got a different sound for the motion tracker.
But it's so good.
Yeah, and it's so great, and it even somehow manages to have texture in it that like makes it seem more urgent as the creatures are getting closer. And then you've got the pulse rifle sound, which I'm pretty sure is the sound that I just tried to make with my mouth for any gun sound for my entire life.
Yes.
And like Daniel said, the grenade, and it's all very tactile.
And the
I feel like
flamethrower.
God, yes. I feel like so much of that is missing from modern movies. You just don't get the tactile like feeling that this is an object. Like you really get the feeling that this is a prop and that sound is being edited in later.
Yeah.
Whereas in this movie, it's like that's the pulse rifle, and that's what it's like. And I can imagine holding one of these.
Mm-hmm. All right, you've had time to think, Daniel.
Yes, I have decided. So I think my favorite sequence is like when Ripley and the lieutenant are like watching the screens as the Marines move in to like secure the facility, and then the Marines just get completely taken apart because it's the tension is escalated really masterfully the entire time, and it's just like everything going wrong in just the right way. So that probably tied with the ending sequence that Matt already mentioned.
Man, you stole mine. No, I really like that one too. I also really just like I really liked when the part when near the end when they were behind the locked door and like Hudson slowly reading down the amount of meters between them and the aliens, and then they're like down to 6 meters. I'm like, how can that be? That's inside the room. There's that great moment when they go look up in the vents and he shines the flashlight and you just crap tons of them just climbing on the ceiling. That's so good too.
Yeah.
And Hudson's death. I'll always love Hudson's death because he doesn't stop fighting.
Yeah. He goes from being completely gung-ho to being terrified, and you kind of think his gung-ho-ness is just a facade, and then he actually is brave at the end, and it's actually really nice because I think like a lesser movie would have just had him go down like a wuss, but
yeah,
they give him that.
It saves that one for Burke.
Yeah.
Oh, God, Paul Reiser plays such a great sniveling asshole, doesn't he?
Yes.
Like, even when he hadn't shown his true colors yet, like, God, you hated him from the first moment he walked in the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know the acid blood was a thing in the first movie, but it really was used to like great effect in Aliens, because it's basically like even when the Marines are like shredding the aliens and killing them, it like doesn't even matter, because then you're just gonna get splashed with acid blood and then you're still defeated. So it's like you can't even win when you're winning.
Yeah, I agree.
Such a great device.
The only part I really didn't like in the movie this time was when she ran over the alien with the car. Like, we're talking about ruining the coolness of the aliens. Like, seeing one just be crushed under a wheel is like, oh, well, that's lame.
Yeah.
Like,
It's funny you mentioned that. That always took me out of the scene, because I'm like, okay, well, now the entire underside of the car and the tire treads are soaked in this incredibly powerful acid, which you have just shown me can burn through metal. So yeah. But then the thing does break down shortly after that, but they don't say it's because of the acid, so whatever.
Right. Yeah, I was never sure if that's just because she drove through 2 walls of metal, or if that was because of the acid. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just quibbling.
Yeah. Yeah. The Queen alien battle at the end, I mean, I'm like, I don't know if it doesn't have the same perfection of a lot of other scenes, but I think it deserves mention just as like a special effect, because it's this totally practical, basically combination of several practical effects, really, and I think it actually gets the fight across in a visceral way much better than if you had like a wide shot with a CGI Queen alien battling a CGI loader.
Yeah. It just it feels so goofy to me. like I like it, but it feels like it's in a different movie at that point.
Yeah, it's been like, it's just been the awesome scene since I was a kid, because it's like, oh yeah, this is when she gets in the giant robot and then has like a mech battle with the Queen alien. So I've never really outgrown that attitude, but on actual critical analysis, it's kind of a ridiculous scene.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think the actual awesome part of that whole sequence is when you're so happy that you've won, and then Bishop is like ripped in half and thrown 30 yards.
That's so perfect.
It's amazing. Like, it's just an amazingly like slap in the face moment to you as the viewer.
I almost think it's kind of a shame they telegraph it with a quick look at like a drop of acid dropping.
Yeah.
And I almost wish they hadn't done it. I almost wish it was just like literally just they were talking and then bam, he's stabbed, penetrated by the aliens.
And then it kind of goes slow motion, and then he's like lifted into the air.
And then ripped in half.
And I never knew if this was I never knew if this was on purpose or not, but it impales him through the back, so the spike comes out the front, and you see nothing except the fact that his shirt is popping out and he's spewing blood out of his mouth, which suggests to you that he's that an alien is bursting out of his chest.
Right.
And that's actually kind of how Ripley reacts. She like grabs his hand and she's like, "Oh no, this is happening to you." And only a couple of seconds into that does it show the queen that the queen has done this, and that it's her tail.
I almost think that was intentional then, because I think that does that imagery, but it also sells the fact that Ripley is completely like turned over a leaf on this robot, so much so that her initial reaction is completely illogical, because she's almost forgotten he's a synthetic and not just actually a human.
She's just trying to help him, even though she can't.
Yeah. Huh, that's interesting. I think you're probably right. I think that was probably intentional. Or the thing just didn't bust through the shirt like it was supposed to. But I think that was probably...
I mean, I like to believe that the Queen was just like trying to screw with Ripley and did that on purpose.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, as we know, she left an egg on the ship, which then impregnated her and Newt.
There's a lot of timing issues on that one.
But because it didn't happen.
According to Neil Blomkamp, it didn't.
Well, according to me, too, okay?
See, I know we said we weren't going to talk about it. I liked Alien 3 a lot. I mean, again, it's a very different movie.
I mean, it's a David Fincher, like, take on this whole thing.
Right.
So.
And I thought the cool addition, as much as I hate exploring the xenomorph because I think it ruins it, but the cool addition is that the thing kind of takes on the form of the animal it gestated in. So like this
Oh,
alien
yeah.
is more dog-like. I thought that was
Yeah.
an interesting take on it.
Yeah.
But okay, now Matt, or actually, should I start with Matt or Daniel? Because I'm gonna make you pick which one you like better. Let's start with Daniel.
Okay.
Which of these two movies
Well-
do you like better?
That's such an unfair question.
I know, but that's why I'm asking you.
Because they're just completely different sorts of movie.
You have to decide.
Because I basically spent my entire childhood running around as a space marine killing aliens, it's probably the movie Aliens. But I still really like the movie Alien.
Okay, that's fair. Matt?
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I have to say basically what Daniel said, that like my favorite movie is Aliens, but the better movie is Alien.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
that.
So unfortunately, I think we're all going to be in agreement here. I think, I thought about this a lot, and Alien is definitely the better movie. It's better crafted. I give Ridley Scott a lot of shit, but I think this is his best film, and I think it's his masterpiece, and it's kind of incredible that it was so early in his career that it happened. Everything about that movie works. It's great. The metaphors really sell home. The imagery, the set design, the direction, the acting, it's all great. But if I were to be asked which I would rather watch on any given day, I would rather watch Aliens.
Yep.
And I think that probably ties back to nostalgia and just the fact that it's Marines blowing stuff up and shooting things. But yeah, I think that's what it is. I think Aliens has some problems. Like I think an hour and 5 minutes till the first big fight is kind of a problem in an action movie, but it's just I love it. I love it all.
Yeah, but that's yeah. I mean, just to follow on that comment, like James Cameron, say what you want, but he's never been afraid of trying very different things. Just because he's like, I don't know, he just seems to not really. He seems to go against convention of the genres that he's in quite a lot, and it often works really well for him. Like another one of my favorite movies to watch, not that it's the best movie in the world, but I really love True Lies, which is like his action comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about Avatar, obviously, but like I think it works really well that the movie takes that long to become an action movie, and I think it would be out to the movie's detriment actually if it jumped into it too quickly.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think it would be an even worse Too Many Ninjas problem, because then they would just be killing aliens the entire movie. And like I appreciate the ratcheting of tension over the course of like an hour of like what happened here, what's going on, all these Marines are so confident, you just know something horrible is going to happen, and it's great.
Yeah. I think it's cool that they make it seem like they do this kind of thing all the time. Like, is this just going to be another bug hunt? Like,
Yeah.
It's never fully explained in this universe. They clearly they know other species of aliens. They've fought other species of aliens. Like, this is just a completely new, different kind of thing. And that was cool.
I think that's the implication, but I don't think you're supposed to think about it too much. Since I have read the technical manual for the Space Marine pulse rifle and smart gun, I can tell you that they do indeed fight other species of aliens in this universe.
Of course, you know that.
Yes, and the smart gun actually has an AI in it that guides where the Marine fires.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the Star Wars expanded universe where it's just some guy who wrote, whatever, because
he felt like it.
Yeah.
Some of the video games are pretty good though.
Yes, they are.
Not the newest one though.
You don't like Alien Isolation?
Oh no! I was talking about Colonial Marines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
No, Alien Isolation. That game scared the hell out of me.
Yeah. That game it's not okay. How scary it is.
Well, one of you should summarize that, just because I don't know how many people know about that.
Oh yeah. So you want to go ahead?
You've probably played it more recently than I have, actually.
Oh, yeah. So I forget the story. The story doesn't matter. The
Yeah, it
point is
doesn't matter.
you're trapped on
You're
a ship
Ripley.
with an alien. Yeah.
You're not actually Ripley.
Yeah.
But you might as well be Ripley.
Yeah, yeah. You're trapped on a spaceship with an alien, and you have no weapons, and you have different tools, and it's first person, so you can only look around, and like the alien is always there somehow, and you have to sneak around stuff, and you have gadgets like to unlock doors or puzzles to solve, and you're having to do all this stuff like while aliens are running around.
So did you play it on an Oculus Rift? Because I did.
Oh
And
my god.
that's the worst thing ever. With
No.
like headphones and like 3D, and you can't kill the alien. You have no weapons.
Yeah, you
and
can't
it's
kill it.
like intelligent, and it like stalks you, and you have to like move very slowly, and it's
I've heard
wonderful.
that once you get the flamethrower in that game, though, it completely kills everything because
Yeah, I can imagine.
every time you gets close to you, you just fire that at it and it runs away and it kills the tension. But yeah, I mean, there was a scene where I think I was trying to get some data disk or some key card or something, and I like got it, and I knew the alien was in the room, and I just literally just like booked it to the door, like screaming the entire time because I knew it was chasing after me. I mean, it really succeeds in setting the atmosphere, so I can't imagine on my Oculus Rift. That's ridiculous. But yeah, I tried to let my dad play that one because he loves the series too, and he couldn't handle the controls. But so he watched and was just as freaked out.
Yeah, it's yes.
All right. So that's it. That's it. Aliens. So this is actually today is the 30th anniversary of that movie. It came out in 1986. So we honored the movie by picking it over its predecessor today. And I'll probably watch it again Aliens Day next year because apparently it's a thing now. Maybe this time next year we can talk about Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection and really dive into those.
Yeah,
those
there's
great
definitely
movies.
well, there's definitely stuff to talk about there.
Yeah.
I mean, more as an analysis of how they, like, why they sort of failed. Because, I mean, very briefly, both of them had the same issue, which was that there were people with good ideas behind them who were then handcuffed by the studio or other forces that kept them from making the movie they wanted to make.
Yep.
So.
Wasn't Joss Whedon a writer on Resurrection?
Yeah, I think he was. Well, I think he wrote the first script. I think he was the writer, and then maybe they rewrote it because, I mean, it's you can tell from the dialogue it's very Whedon-ish, and the story was a lot different. And then what happened there, I think, was the director came in and he had this weird ass vision for where he wanted to take it, and didn't really tonally jive with anything in Joss Whedon's universe.
God, the end of that movie is so fucking ridiculous. I can't.
Yeah. Sigourney Weaver also is responsible for this, though, because I think she was sick of the Alien franchise at this point and just wanted to do really weird artistic things.
Yeah, that's probably true because the character she plays is insane.
Yeah.
Like I don't. I guess we're gonna dive into this right now, but the scene, I hated that movie, but the scene at the end when she flicks the acid on the window and the alien gets sucked up through a tiny little pinhole, like that haunts me. Like,
yeah, that was really unnecessarily
like
disturbing.
You see its intestines like fall out of its body forward and then get sucked up back through the little pinhole in the door or the window, and it's just like, oh my god, like.
Yeah. What happened to my fun alien movies where people just get stabbed and that's it?
Yeah. Or predators show up.
Right.
Okay, so that's Alien and Aliens. This was fun. I'm glad we all agreed, and I thought there was going to be a fight, but that's good.
Yeah, me too, actually.
It's kind of, but I mean, I guess when you love both of the movies, like, what's the fight? It's like, oh, if I happen to say I love one a little bit more than the other, like, are you going to get mad about that?
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, maybe when I was younger, like this, it's funny because like when I was younger, I would have like fought somebody over Star Trek versus Star Wars or whatever. Now I'm just like, oh yes, I enjoy both of those things for different reasons.
Can you tell the obsessed Batman vs Superman fans to act more mature?
Well, I mean, they just have to grow up.
Yeah. The thing is, I think some of them are. I don't know. Like some of them are adults. They're just acting crazy.
I don't know.
I don't think they're crazy. I think they have legitimate points.
I think saying you like the movie is a legitimate point. I think calling
Best superhero movie of all time, maybe?
calling for some sort of giant conspiracy against the DC universe because critics didn't like the movie is insane.
I mean,
Oh, are people actually doing that?
Yes.
everything becomes an identity eventually. So all of the illness of identity politics is now wrapped up in being a Batman versus Superman or being a DC fan.
Yeah.
So,
I think for the people listening out there, the most important thing I can say to you is just because I am insulting something you don't like, or you do like, does not mean I am insulting you. And you should not take it personally. You are not defined by the things you like.
But then what am I, Scott?
You're you. And on that note,
you're just someone who likes Alien versus Predator.
you're just someone who thinks Batman vs Superman is the best superhero movie ever, which puts you in a population of 1.
Actually, Watchmen is better, but no.
See, that's exactly why you like these movies,
Yes.
because you hate superheroes.
Yes.
All right. So let's wrap this thing up with just going through what we've been watching real quick. Matt, why don't you go first?
I watched this documentary yesterday, I think, called "Where's My Window?" Called "Prescription Thugs," which is the stupidest title in the world. But
Yeah, I agree.
This was a. Have either of you seen this or heard of
It's
this?
not as stupid
Nope.
as Dawn of Justice.
That's
Pretty bad.
so it's a documentary. When you start watching it, you think it's going to be the dumbest thing you've ever seen, and it really won me over. I don't know. It's not particularly well rated, but for whatever reason, it won me over. It's a documentary about prescription drug abuse, and the guy who is doing the documentary, the host or whatever the word is kind of a meathead. He wears Under Armour 100% of the time, even when he's interviewing people who are in suit. He interviews a state congressman at one point wearing his Under Armour baseball cap, and so these are the kind of things that the movie is having to work past. But you eventually see that this is just who this guy is, and it becomes one of those documentaries where the documentary becomes about the documentary instead of about the subject, because there are a couple of twists that I debated before going on here whether I was going to spoil the twists. And I think I will not, actually. But two really dramatic things happen during the filming of the documentary. One of them is that one of the subjects of the documentary dies of a drug overdose. And I won't tell you the other one. But it's really gets to you because this is really happening. It's a documentary. And you were just seeing them interviewing this guy, and then they're like, "Oh, we just got the phone call, and he's dead now," of the thing that we were making the documentary about.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's awful.
And it also highlights that this is a huge problem, and that doctors have been overprescribing opiates in particular for decades, and opiates have this horrible risk profile where you can just take the prescribed amount, go to sleep, and not wake up. So.
Yeah,
Stay away from opiates, kids.
Those kind of drugs scare the hell out of me.
Yeah, and I mean if you've had any kind of surgery, you've probably taken them too. That's the creepy thing about it. But anyway, that's that movie, Prescription Thugs.
Okay, cool. Daniel, what have you been watching?
So I binge watched season 1 of The Expanse, which is the new sci-fi adaptation of a series of novels that I really want to read as soon as possible. And this is kind of a mix mash of Firefly or Cowboy Bebop. It's sort of 200 years in the future. We've colonized most of the solar system, but it's very technically grounded. So it's not quite hard sci-fi. It's somewhere between hard sci-fi and like what is in Firefly, the TV series. So I don't know. I found it really compelling. The characters are super interesting, and it's sort of tropey, but it's tropey in a way that's like not distasteful and sort of fresh. It's a fresh collection of old tropes. So I strongly encourage anyone that hasn't seen it to at least watch the first couple episodes, because
where did you binge watch it?
I just on the Sci-Fi website, actually. I think
Oh.
the first couple of episodes might be free, and then the others you find through whatever means. I don't understand why you would have like the first 6 episodes of like a 10 episode series on your website and then not have the other 4. That boggles my mind.
Yeah.
But it might be difficult to find all of it online.
Especially if you're not like offering them for sale or something. Like it makes sense to hook you and then charge you, but
yes,
if the only other way to get them is through subscribing to cable, like I don't. Which it's a basic cable channel now, right? Sci-Fi.
Yeah,
So that's not even like subscription. So yeah, I don't know. That's weird. I heard good things about that, and I really want to check it out.
Yeah,
especially
definitely.
after your good words. So it sounds kind of right up my alley. Except every time you mention an anime, all I hear is
Cowboy Bebop is actually good though. So
I've never actually seen it.
Me neither.
Okay, so what I saw this week was a little movie called The Huntsman: Winter's War. This movie's really bad. It's really bad. It doesn't work in any way. It only exists because that movie Snow White and the Huntsman, one of the most forgettable movies that wasn't terrible but wasn't good, made money, so they wanted to make a sequel. And it's this movie that is kind of both a prequel and a sequel. We were talking about how Aliens takes an hour to really set it up and get it into the action. This movie, like the concept takes 2/3 of the movie to explain, like just the setup of the film, because it starts like the first half hour is a prequel to Snow White and the Huntsman, and then it goes. And then 7 years went by, and the events of the last movie happened. And now let's start talking about how we finished this plot, and it's just ridiculous. And the crazy thing about it is how many really talented actors are in this movie. Jessica Chastain, Charlize Theron, Emily Blunt, and Thor. These actors are all really good, and I don't know how they got tricked into being in this movie. Like, the only one who was smart enough to stay away after the first one was Kristen Stewart. It's unbelievable. I don't know. I will say, though, that as much as it's terrible, I kind of enjoyed the ridiculousness. I think Charlize Theron is having a lot of fun with this role because she knows it's bad and can do whatever she wants. I think Hemsworth also knows how bad it is, and his character is like constantly laughing to himself about the events that are unfolding. And I think I like to think that's just Hemsworth laughing to himself, because this movie's so bad. I liked it better than Batman v Superman.
Wow, I need to see this movie. You're actually selling me on this movie. I don't know if that was the intended effect.
I mean, I wouldn't go see it in the theater. But
have they ever? This is the first I've ever heard of someone making like a sequel that has prequel and sequel material in it. It's the worst thing I've ever heard of.
It's terrible. Like, they should have just made a prequel. Because the thing is, they wanted Charlize Theron's character in it still, but she dies at the end of Snow White and the Huntsman because she's the bad person in that.
Spoilers.
It's not spoilers. The evil queen dies at the end of Snow White is not a spoiler.
Is this the Elsa Queen or the?
No, the Elsa Queen is Emily Blunt's character.
Oh, I see.
Who gets really mad and turns into a Frozen character, and
Excellent.
then Jessica Chastain plays the girl from Brave, the Pixar movie.
Yes.
So this is just I don't even know. I guess this is Disney owned, but they're just shamelessly pulling other things. I don't know.
That's weird.
The other thing I saw that I want to talk about real quick is I saw Much Ado About Nothing, the Joss Whedon version that he filmed while taking a 2-week break from Avengers. I had seen this movie before, but today is the 400th anniversary of William Shakespeare's death, so They were playing it at the Draft House, and I thought that would be fun. So I did that, and I love that movie. I think it's I mean, Shakespeare is one of the best writers of all time. So the story is great, and I love Joss Whedon's direction and the fact that it's all his friends having fun, and they filmed it in 12 days. Like, it's just fun. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but
Yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. My favorite was the what's his face who's in Firefly. Actually, a lot of them are in Firefly.
Nathan Fillion. Yeah,
Yeah,
like it's all
yeah,
his.
Nathan-
It's all his. Apparently, Joss Whedon's friends are just all the people he's worked with on his TV shows because
Yeah, of course. But yeah, Nathan Fillion's character in that is fantastic.
oh, it's so good. It's so good. And I haven't seen. I don't think I've read that play. I haven't ever seen it performed, so I had nothing to really compare it to. But it's just great. Matt, have you seen it?
No.
you
Where would
guys-
I see this?
I don't know.
Okay. I will make a note to try to find it, though.
You can borrow my Blu-ray
Okay.
that I didn't have until I walked to the theater and I said I want to buy this, and I bought
So-
the Bluray.
So it's already, like, out. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh
it
yeah,
came
this
out.
has been out for a while.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, like I said, he was basically had a 2-week vacation after principal photography for Avengers wrapped up, and he was like, "Let's hop all my friends over to my house and do this," because it's all filmed at Joss Whedon's house in Malibu, and
That's hilarious.
his
Okay.
his brother wrote the music for it. Like, it's all his friends. Like, apparently Joss Whedon has Shakespeare reading parties at his house, and so like built upon that to actually just shoot a movie of it, which also makes me really want to be Joss Whedon's best friend a lot. So Joss, if you're looking for any more friends.
Let's make that happen.
All right, so that is all we have for this week. Next week, Matt, we're going to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe because
Ooh.
Civil War is coming out
Mhm.
next Friday. So we're going to talk about the story so far and what we like and don't like about those films. So that's going to
Yeah.
be really cool.
Yeah. I hope they put Wolverine in it. I hope Wolverine is in everything.
So I guess you saw the new X-Men Apocalypse trailer?
I did. So glad that Wolverine is in it.
You know what my favorite part about that film is? It's
What?
set in the 80s, but they decided to make it aesthetically not look like it was set in the 80s at all.
Yeah.
So then why set it in the 80s? Nobody knows
No
these things.
one really remembers what the 80s were like.
I mean, none of the timing makes sense at all.
No.
It's not even worth saying.
And they might go the route, because like in the comics, Mystique is Nightcrawler's mother, and they might do that.
I think they will based on the trailer.
But that's so weird, because it's Jennifer Lawrence. She's like 23,
I mean, maybe she just shapeshifts to look 23.
I guess. I mean,
She's-
technically she was Jennifer Lawrence in the 60s, and now she's
Right.
Jennifer Lawrence in the 80s. So yeah, I guess that's
Exactly.
what they could say.
Yeah.
I only show myself young. Whatever.
Yeah. This movie, I'm very.
Bryan Singer's Alien movies Alien X-Men movies are terrible, and I can't wait till he's done with the franchise.
I'm worried about this movie too.
But we're not
And-
going to talk about those movies
No.
next week. We're going to talk about the Marvel-owned, not the Fox-owned movies. So we're talking about how Captain America is great and way better than DC Superman.
Sounds good.
And I don't know if I want to invite Daniel to participate in this one because I think he's just going to be really mean the whole time.
No, I enjoy the Marvel movies.
Yeah, that's the thing. Daniel enjoys everything.
That's
he just,
true. That's
he just. That's also the problem.
It's not a problem. Don't understand.
All right, guys. Daniel, thanks for joining us. This was fun.
Well, thanks for having me back.
Happy Alien Day. And
Uh-huh.
and I guess we should do Twitter and stuff, right? I always forget that. Well, the stuff will be in the show notes where you can find us.
Yeah.
DailyPlanetFilms.com.
Yeah, subscribe to our podcast.
Yeah, do that and
At this
share
point
it
in time.
and review it.
3.
If you
2.
review our podcast, we will read your review out loud on the
Yeah.
podcast.
And then you'll be famous.
Unless it's bad, in which case we won't.
No, I'll read it if it's
Oh, okay. Because you make anything sound good.
yes.
All right, guys. We will see you next week.
Podcast is over, it's done. We hope you all had some fun. Go back to your work or your school. Maybe just go away. But please come back next